The Silent Watchers. The Galactic Assembly had always viewed humans as an amusing curiosity. Technologically primitive compared to the elder races, Earth's representatives arrived with diplomats instead of warships, with trade agreements instead of conquest demands. For nearly 50 years since first contact, humanity maintained this posture of peaceful engagement, grateful just to have a seat at the table. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, watching the massive Galactic Assembly Station orbit the neutral world of Centauri Prime. Her dark eyes reflected the distant stars as she straightened her formal uniform, a simple blue and white affair with minimal decoration. Unlike the Silurians with their war medals or the Vulturi with their ancestral kills marked in bone jewelry, humans preferred subtlety. "Commander, we're receiving the final docking instructions," her aide announced. Elena nodded, her expression neutral. "Tell them we accept their parameters. Standard protocol." The Silurian ambassador would later remark to his colleagues how eager the humans seemed to comply with every instruction, how their ships never carried visible weapons, how their diplomats bowed their heads when challenged by more established powers. He would be dead within a month. Inside the Grand Assembly Chamber, representatives from 200 species gathered under the mammoth crystalline dome. Elena took her seat in the human section, notably smaller than most delegations. The agenda today concerned resource rights in the Proxima Centauri system, Earth's nearest stellar neighbor and home to a burgeoning human colony. Grand Imperator Vlak of the Silurian hegemony rose to speak, his scaled skin catching the light dramatically. The hegemony formally claims exclusive mining rights to the asteroid belt of Proxima Centauri under ancient right of superior technological capability. The chamber murmured. This was a direct challenge to human territory, thinly disguised as procedural. When Elena rose to respond, many delegates settled in for the usual human capitulation. "The Earth United Nations acknowledges the hegemony's interest," she began, her voice measured. "However, Proxima Centauri remains within humanity's recognized sphere of influence per Assembly Resolution 2189. We respectfully maintain our claim." Vlak's inner eyelid flickered, the Silurian equivalent of dismissive laughter. "And how will humans enforce this claim? With your sublight vessels and primitive defense systems." Elena merely smiled. "We hope diplomatic solutions will prevail." 3 weeks later, the Silurian hegemony sent a mining fleet to Proxima anyway. They encountered no resistance. Human vessels simply moved aside, documenting the incursion but taking no action. The assembly watched with mixed reactions. Some pitied the humans, others despised their weakness. Admiral Quetzal, commanding the Silurian fleet, broadcast his conquests throughout the sector. "See how they bend. These humans cannot protect what is theirs." On board her return vessel to Earth, Elena watched the broadcasts without comment. Her aide approached tentatively. "Commander, the Security Council's message is marked urgent." She opened the encrypted channel and nodded once at the stern faces of Earth's military command. "It's time," she said simply. "Operation Glasshouse is authorized," came the reply. What the galactic community didn't know, what they had never bothered to investigate, was that humanity had not spent 50 years doing nothing. They had been watching, learning, preparing. While sending unarmed diplomatic ships openly, Earth had been launching stealth vessels with every new technology they could reverse engineer from their limited contact with alien species. These vessels carried no identifiable energy signatures. They had been positioning themselves throughout human-claimed space for decades, silent, patient, waiting. And deep within the asteroids of Proxima Centauri, nanotechnology mines, billions of microscopic machines indistinguishable from normal space dust, had been seeded years earlier. The attack came without warning. Admiral Quetzal was in the middle of a transmission when his flagship simply disintegrated around him, not from external weapons fire, but from within. The nanomins had been breathed in through life support, had entered the ship's systems, had been circulating for days before receiving their activation signal. Across the Silurian fleet, The same scene repeated. 27 warships collapsed from the inside out. No explosions, no radiation, just structural failure so complete it appeared as though the ships had suddenly lost molecular cohesion. In the assembly chamber, emergency sessions were called. The Volturi ambassador demanded explanations. The Qualathi representative suggested an unknown natural phenomenon. The Etherians proposed a spatial anomaly. None of them suspected the humans, not until Elena Reyes walked into the chamber alone the following day. The Earth United Nations formally acknowledges responsibility for the defensive action taken at Proxima Centauri, she stated without preamble. The Silurian incursion constituted an act of war against sovereign human territory after diplomatic warnings were ignored. Stunned silence filled the chamber before erupting into chaos. The Volturi Supreme stood, his voice cutting through the din. You claim responsibility. Impossible. Human technology can't. Human technology is precisely what you think it is, Elena interrupted. But human ingenuity is what you fail to account for. We have been studying you all for 50 years. Your weapons, your defenses, your weaknesses. She activated a hologram showing the exact mechanism of the nanomeans. It was elegant, simple, and devastating. We came in peace, Elena continued, her voice hardening. We asked only for respect and cooperation. Instead, you saw our diplomacy as weakness, our patience as fear, our restraint as inability. The Grand Vizier of the Aetherians, oldest of the assembly races, leaned forward. You have hidden your capabilities. You have deceived the assembly. Elena's smile was cold. No, we have been transparent about our official capabilities. We simply didn't volunteer information about our classified programs, just as none of you have. The difference is, you never bothered to ask. You assumed. As the implications dawned on the assembly, security alerts began chiming across personal devices. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human stealth ships were decloaking in strategic positions near every major power's key military installations. They had been there all along. The Silurian hegemon himself arrived, scales pale with fury. This is an act of war against the entire hegemony. We will reduce your worlds to ash. Elena didn't flinch. Before you make threats, hegemon, you should know that similar nanomins have already been deployed throughout Silurian space, not just on your military targets, but on every world where you've established dominance through force. She paused, letting the words sink in. Humanity doesn't want war. We never did. But we have never been defenseless, only patient. We would prefer to return to diplomacy, but now with mutual respect rather than assumed hierarchy. As Elena finished speaking, Earth's previously modest diplomatic vessel transformed outside the assembly station's windows. Sections of hull reconfigured, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden in plain sight. The ship's energy signature quadrupled as dormant systems came online. The message was clear. Humanity had been wearing a mask of submission while preparing for the worst. Now the mask was off. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The reckoning. 3 days after what galactic historians would later call the Proxima Revelation, the assembly station hummed with frantic activity. Emergency sessions ran continuously, diplomatic couriers rushed between sectors, and military advisors whispered urgently to their governments. In the human embassy section, Elena Reyes sat alone, reviewing reports from Earth. The Silurian hegemony had withdrawn their remaining forces from human space. The Volturi Dominion had suddenly discovered scheduling conflicts that prevented their planned military exercises near human colonies. The Qualathi Republic was proposing new trade agreements at terms suspiciously favorable to Earth. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Ambassador Tivosh of the Aetherian Conclave, the oldest and most respected species in the assembly. Commander Reyes, the ancient being said, his crystalline form shimmering as he moved into the room, may we speak candidly. Elena gestured to a seat. I've always preferred candor, Ambassador. Tivosh settled his crystalline form carefully. In 10,000 years of diplomatic service, I have rarely been surprised. Your revelation has unsettled many assumptions. That was necessary, Elena replied. Assumptions were getting humans killed. Tivosh's facets glinted, the Aetherian equivalent of a nod. What puzzles many of us is the extent of your preparations. The stealth network alone must have consumed resources beyond what a developing species should be able to afford. Elena smiled thinly. When your survival depends on it, you find the resources. Back on Earth, in the subterranean complex beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Marcus Jung studied the holographic display showing the position of every known alien fleet. Red markers indicated hostile forces, yellow for neutral, green for friendly. There were a lot more yellows and greens than there had been a week ago. They're adapting quickly, noted his second-in-command, Colonel Sato. Jung nodded. Predators always recognize another predator once the disguise comes off. The door hissed open as Dr. Eliza Chen entered, her lab coat rumpled from another overnight session. The Silurians have been probing our network's emissions signature, she reported. They're searching for our control signals. Let them search, John replied. The nanomanes are autonomous now. Even if they found the frequency, it wouldn't help them. Chen frowned. What worries me is the Quilathi. Their sudden friendliness feels strategic rather than sincere. Of course it is, Zhang agreed. They're buying time while they assess whether they can counter our technology. Intelligence suggests they're rushing development on their own nanoweapons. On the main viewer, a priority alert flashed. Zhang opened the channel to reveal Elena's face. General, the hegemony has rejected our final warning. Their remaining battle groups are mobilizing toward the Sol system. Zhang's expression hardened. Then they've made their choice. Initiate Operation Firewall. Throughout Silurian space, on worlds where their warships gathered, dormant human nanomenes activated not to destroy, but to disable. Drive systems failed. Weapon platforms went offline. Communication arrays scattered their signals into meaningless static. The mighty Silurian war machine found itself paralyzed. In the assembly chamber, the hegemon roared in fury as reports flooded in. What have you done? He demanded of Elena. Exactly what we warned we would do, she replied calmly. Your military capability has been neutralized, but your civilian infrastructure remains untouched. No lives have been lost. This is a demonstration of restraint, not weakness. The Volturi Supreme leaned toward his aide. Contact our fleet. Abort the support mission to the Silurians immediately. Across the chamber, similar conversations occurred as the galactic powers reassessed their positions. The humans had revealed not just advanced technology, but strategic foresight that had outmaneuvered them all. In the following weeks, a new reality emerged. Human representatives no longer occupied the smallest section of the assembly. Their diplomatic vessels no longer concealed their true capabilities. And when Elena Rice spoke, the chamber fell silent to listen. Humanity extends its hand in genuine cooperation. She addressed the full assembly 1 month after the revelation. We never wanted dominance, only security and respect. Now that we have your attention, let us speak of what we can build together rather than what we might destroy apart. On a secured channel later that day, she spoke with General Zhang. The transition is proceeding faster than we predicted. The Aetherians are particularly eager to establish true diplomatic relations now. Zhang nodded. And the Silurians. Their new government is more pragmatic than the previous one, Elena replied with subtle emphasis. They've accepted our terms for normalization. Any regrets? Zhang asked. Elena glanced out her viewport at the assembly station, now flanked by openly armed human vessels. Only that it came to this. 50 years of trying the peaceful approach only to be forced to reveal our teeth. Zhang's expression softened slightly. Humanity tried diplomacy first. History will remember that. Will it? Elena wondered. Or will they only remember the day the humans took off their mask? In the decades that followed, The true extent of human preparation became apparent to the galactic community. It hadn't just been nanomines and stealth ships. Earth had created fail-safes and contingencies for almost every conceivable threat. They had studied each species' biology for vulnerabilities, each empire's infrastructure for critical weak points, each civilization's culture for psychological leverage. Not because humans were inherently aggressive, but because they had arrived on the galactic stage surrounded by predators who mistook politeness for weakness. The Qualathi ambassador, in a private moment with Elena years later, finally asked the question many had wondered: why the deception? Why not show your strength from the beginning? Elena considered this as she looked out at the now thriving trade hub that the assembly station had become under the new cooperative regime. We wanted to see who you truly were, she answered finally. Nations show their true character not to those they fear, but to those they believe are harmless. You all revealed yourselves to us completely. She turned to face the ambassador fully. Humanity wasn't deceptive. We were attentive. We weren't weak. We were evaluating. And now we all benefit from the understanding that followed. The Quilathi's tentacles rippled in acknowledgement. A costly lesson for some, but a necessary one. Elena replied. The galaxy now understands that humans aren't merely peacekeepers. We're patient strategists. And that has brought more genuine peace than any show of force ever could. Across the stars, human colonies flourished alongside alien settlements. Trade routes buzzed with activity between worlds that had once eyed each other with suspicion. Joint scientific ventures tackled challenges that had stymied individual species for centuries. And throughout it all, humanity maintained its vigilance, visible now, respected, but never again underestimated. The mask was off, but the peace that followed proved more genuine than what had come before. The galaxy had learned that the most dangerous species aren't those who bare their teeth first, but those who watch, learn, prepare, and strike only when necessary. Humans hadn't conquered the stars. They had simply claimed their rightful place among them on their own terms. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.